Well, the sanctions were designed to impact on the central actors that are claimed to be responsible for the crisis in Ukraine, and that is people close to President Putin and companies and banks close to the Kremlin. And it's quite obvious that they are suffering. They are taking a severe beating by the sanctions. However, Russia does have substantial fiscal defenses, substantial forex reserves, so that they will be able to sustain this punishment for some time. So we are not achieving the political objective of making them bend, but the sanctions are definitely impacting heavily on Russia. And the medium to long-term impact, if this is going on, is going to be very, very substantial. Well, the decision to hit European farmers was very clever from the Kremlin, because it is obvious that the European Union has more to fear from angry farmers than from angry industrialists. And we're already seeing some countries breaking ranks over sanctions. But the impact on Russia itself is also going to be significant. The first thing, obviously, is that the choice in upmarket stores in Moscow and St. Petersburg will be limited, which will affect the elites in those cities. You can't get nice foods to the extent you could before. The second is that food prices will go up. I mean, these imports will be substituted by imports from Brazil, Turkey, and New Zealand and other places at higher cost. And that means when food prices go up, so will inflation. And inflation today is the #1 concern to the Russian government. So it will have an impact on Russians as well, both in the stores and in the pocketbook when inflation starts rising even further. Well, the market will make up part of the shortfall in the sense that there will be sanctions busting, as is always the case. We are going to see imports from Spain relabeled as imports from Brazil or the Argentine. We have already seen herring from Belarus appearing in Moscow, and Belarus does not have fishery. There is Parmesan cheese from Belarus available in Moscow now, and they don't make Parmesan cheese. So country like Belarus is a big winner here, because they're cutting a big margin on parallel imports. So Russia will make up partly. Partly they will also make up in the sense that they rolled back some of the sanctions on inputs to their own food industry. They realized that they can't do without seeds and they can't do without hatchlings for the fisheries. So those sanctions have been removed, so that import will continue. But it will be felt, and it will be noticeable in Moscow and Petersburg mainly. Well, if this war of sanctions continues, or God forbid it's escalated even further, the real losers, as always, will be the Russian population. The Russian economy will be pushed into recession or even worse. If there is a full-scale attack on the Russian financial system, we will see the Russian economy go into really serious tailspin. And the Russian economy was in bad shape even before this happened. So we're looking at the structural crisis where there will be substantial job losses in the sectors that were well-functioning. Services are being pummeled now. We will see long-term damage from inability to kick some life into extraction of oil and gas, suggesting that we'll see long-term decline. So there will be substantial damage from this. And the question is, to what extent does the Kremlin factor in long-term damage in its short-term political risk assessment? And that obviously is something that is happening inside Mr. Putin's head, and nobody is in there to look.